You're on the river. The pot is $200. Your opponent shoves for $150. You think about it and you call. He rolls over the nuts. You lose the $150. And on the drive home, you tell yourself maybe you made a bad call, but maybe you didn't. Maybe that call was exactly right and you just got unlucky. Or maybe if the villain had shown a bluff, you would have walked away thinking you made a great call when it was actually a disaster. The point is, you have no idea because you judge the decision by the results. And results based thinking is one of the most expensive patterns in poker. In those spots, here's a better question to ask. Not did I win? Not was I right? The better question is, what was that decision worth? And the tool that answers this question is called expected value. And by the end of this video, you're going to not just understand it, but know how to use it like a weapon. This is Vinton Poker, precision in, profits out. I'm Vinton, and I have 23 years of experience playing live cash games and 5 years of coaching players. And my entire mission is to help you think clearer and make better decisions and bring home more cash from every single session you play. Let's get into it. Most players think poker is a guessing game. The cards come out, you read the situation, you make your best guess, and then you find out whether you were right or wrong. And if that sounds like your game right now, I want to show you something. Because that mindset is not just wrong, it's fucking expensive. Poker is not a guessing game. Poker is an information problem solved with mathematics. You gather information. That information creates assumptions. Those assumptions go into the math. And the math produces a decision. Information first, math second. In that order, every single time. That's the precision in part. And the reason most players struggle is not because they can't do the math. It's because they feed garbage information into the math and wonder why the results don't add up. Expected value, which you will hear called EV in almost every serious poker conversation, is the measuring stick that separates reaction from real decision. Here's the simplest definition I can give you. Expected value is what your decision is worth in the long run. Not in this hand, not in this session, but on average over hundreds and thousands of repetitions of the same situation. That is what EV measures. And here's why it matters. You can make the right decision and still lose. You can make the wrong decision and win the pot. In poker, and often in life, results lie to you constantly. Expected value does not. Let me give you a clear example. Let's say there is $100 in a pot and your opponent bets $50. The pot now is $150 and it costs you $50 to make the call. You think you have about 30% chance of winning the pot. Now, most players at this point either call because they have a feel for it or they fold because they don't want to lose $50. Those are emotional reactions disguised as decisions. Here's the actual decision process. EV equals your probability of winning multiplied by what you win minus your probability of losing multiplied by what you lose. So you run the numbers. You think you'll win 30% of the times, and when you win a $150 pot. 30% of $150 is $45. You think you lose 70% of the time, and when you lose your $50 call. 70% of $50 is $35. Now compare the two numbers. Your win contributes $45 on average, and your losses cost you $35 on average. 45 minus 35 leaves you with a positive $10. That's your expected value. Not $10 this hand, $10 on average over hundreds and thousands of repetitions. This call earns you about $10 every time this situation comes up. That's what makes it a positive EV decision. You're not trying to predict what happens this time. You're trying to make decisions that are profitable over time because poker doesn't pay you for predicting the future. Poker pays you for repeatedly making profitable decisions. If this exact spot repeated forever, You would average $10 in profit every time it came up. You might lose the hand tonight. The math does not care. The math does not promise you immediate reward. It rewards consistency over thousands of decisions, and good ones outperform the bad ones every single time without exception. That is a positive EV play. You make it every time, no hesitation. Now let's flip it. Same spot, same bet, except you only now have 20% chance of winning. 20% times $150 is $30. 80% of the times that you lose times $50 is $40. 30 minus 40 is -10. The call loses $10 on average every time you make it. Win or lose this particular hand, you're bleeding $10 every time you call in that spot. That is a negative EV play. You fold and you feel good about folding because the math told you so. Professional poker is the relentless pursuit of profitable decisions while exploiting the specific mistakes of the people sitting across from you. In short, consistently making plus EV decisions. That is the whole game. Everything else is just random noise. Before we go on, if you're getting value from this video, give it a like and share it with someone else who's also serious about becoming a crusher just like you. Your support helps this channel grow and it means the world to me. Also, don't forget to share your thoughts and questions in the comments below as I read them all. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any future episodes. Now let's get back to expected value. And here's where I'm going to say something that sounds counterintuitive until you really think about it. The calculation I just walked you through, it's almost useless without one piece of information. And that piece of information has nothing to do with your cards. It has everything to do with who's sitting across from you, the villain. Say the pot is $150 and someone bets $50. You need roughly 25% equity to call. Simple. You look at your draw and you think you have about 30% equity, so you make the call. Clean decision. Except against the nit in seed 1 who has shown down only top of his range for 3 hours, your assumption is probably wrong. That 30% estimate was based on him having enough weaker hands and bluffs in his range. But if he only takes this line with the very strongest hands in his range, your actual equity might be closer to 12%. Same draw, same spot, same price, a completely different decision. Against the maniac in seed 6 who's been overbetting air all night, that same bet with that same hand may mean your equity is close to 60%. Same cards, same board, same math, two completely different decisions. One of them is printing money and the other one is bleeding money. And the only variable that changed is the person sitting across from you at the table holding the cards. The same hand can be massively profitable against one player and massively unprofitable against another. The cards didn't change. The board didn't change. The pot size didn't change. The only thing that changed was the human being sitting across from you. And understanding that nuance, that's where the money lives. EV lives in opponents, not in hands. And this leads to something that the poker world does not talk about enough. The goal is not to maximize theoretical EV. The goal is to maximize realized EV. And those are not the same things. A solver might tell you a bluff earns a few dollars against a perfect opponent. But if you're playing against a calling station who falls maybe once an hour, that theoretical profit evaporates the moment you fire. What matters is not what works against robots. What matters is what works against the specific human being sitting across from you right now. Here's how all of this connects. Information creates assumptions. Assumptions create ranges. Ranges create equity estimations. Equity estimations create EV. EV creates decisions, and decisions creates results. That's the full pipeline. Every single hand, every single decision, and it starts with information and not math. This is why PIPO matters. Precision in, profits out. Expected value is not magic. It is only as good as the assumptions you feed into it. Garbage assumptions create garbage EV. Precise assumptions create profits. The better your reads, the closer your EV calculations are to reality, the more money you make. It's that direct. It's that simple. Now, I want to talk to you about the thing that most live players at 1-3 and 2-5 do to destroy their expected value every single session. They judge decisions by their results. They call a bad river bet, get showdown a bluff, and they think that they made a great play. They make a mathematically correct call, lose, and they think they made a huge mistake. They run a bluff that fails, and they swear off bluffing for the rest of the night. They value bet thin, get snapped off, and then start playing scared. Every one of those adjustments is outcome-based thinking, and outcome-based thinking is a machine that converts good decisions into bad ones over time. Because here's what outcome-based thinking does to you. You make a correct call, you lose. Your brain mistakes pain for a bad play. So the next time the spot comes up, you hesitate. You second guess yourself. Maybe you even find a fold. And because you avoided another painful result, you tell yourself you played disciplined poker. But it wasn't discipline, it was fear. The math said call, you folded. That's a small leak. And those small, tiny leaks aren't obvious and noticeable in just one session. They show up over hundreds of hours. Then you can't figure out why you're working so hard and not getting ahead. Now, let me show you how EV applies to bluffs, because this is where it really gets useful. Suppose the pot is $100 and you bet $50 as a bluff. You're risking $50 to win $100. Your bluff needs to work often enough to be profitable. Specifically, $50 divided by a total pot of $150, which equals 33%. 1 out of 3 times. If your opponent folds more than 1/3 of the time in that spot, your bluff prints money. If he folds less than that, your bluff burns money. You do not need a bluff to always work. You just need it to work often enough. More often than your calculated break-even percentage, to be exact. And value bets work the same way, only in reverse. When you bet for value, you need worse hands to call often enough to make that bet profitable. Against a calling station who cannot find a fold button, that value bet is printing. Against the tight player who only continues with the nuts, that same bet on a dry board might not be the automatic play you think it is. EV shifts with the opponent every single time, every single hand. Now, here's something nobody at the table will celebrate, but it might be the most important EV concept in live poker. Folding. Nobody tells stories about folds. Nobody gets an applause for laying down top pair. Nobody comes home and says, I crushed it tonight. I folded 3 rivers. But bankrolls are built on folds. Sometimes the highest EV play at the table is not finding a hero call or pulling off a bluff. It is finding a disciplined fold and protecting your stack for a better spot. In low and mid stakes live cash poker, learning to fold is often worth more than learning any other skill at the table, because the leaks that quietly bleed most players are not the missed bluffs or the missed thin value bets. They are bad calls that should have never been made. EV is exponential. Most players think in terms of individual pots. Professionals think in terms of lifetimes. Suppose you find one extra $15 of EV every single hour you play. That sounds trivial. $15 an hour. But you play 1,000 hours a year. That's $15,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's $150,000. And that is before you even move up in stakes. The difference between a mediocre winner and a player who actually builds a bankroll is rarely some magical talent. It is dozens of tiny EV improvements compounded over thousands of hours. And the losses work exactly the same way in the wrong direction. Tiny negative EV leaks repeated thousands of times compound into real money you can't figure out where it went. And this is why I built the Delusion Killer Masterclass. And I have sat across from enough struggling players to know what this course does when someone actually commits to it and applies it. And the students inside this program who go all in on it are not the same players they were 3 months before. The course is 292 short lessons covering every situation you will face at the live cash games. The math, the reads, the mindset, all of it. If you want to go deeper on this and are ready to start transforming your game from losing to crushing consistently, go to vintonpoker.com/course or click in the link in the description below. Dozens and dozens of players just like you have already made the decision and are not looking back. And if you want to work through this stuff personally with me, I offer a free 60-minute one-on-one coaching session to get to know you, your game, and help you get started in the right path. Just reach out to me on WhatsApp and we'll get something booked while the spots are still available. The link to my WhatsApp is also in the description below. Come find me and let's get working on your game together. Now, before I give you my final thought, I want to say something most poker players, coaches, and content creators will not say out loud. Variance is real, and everyone runs bad. But if you're consistently losing over hundreds of hours, luck is probably not the main problem. The math is trying to tell you something. It is telling you that your decisions, on average, are costing you money. It's not your luck, it's your decisions. That may be hard to hear. It's also the most valuable advice I can impart to you. Because once you accept it, you stop being a victim of the cards and you start being in control of your results. So think back to the hand at the beginning of this video, the one on the river with the $200 pot. The opponent shoved for $150. Hero called and hero lost. He drove home thinking he made a bad call. Here's what I want him to think instead. What was my assumptions about my opponent? What did those assumptions say about his range? What did that range say about my equity? And what did that equity say about the EV of the call? If the answer to that chain of questions says the call was profitable, then he made the right decision. Full stop. The results are irrelevant. The cards don't determine your future. The deck doesn't determine your future. The variance doesn't determine your future either. Your decisions do. And the most beautiful thing about decisions is that you control every single one of them. So start asking what decisions were made and what they were worth. Poker doesn't reward certainty. It rewards positive value expectations. It doesn't pay you for being right. It pays you for making profitable decisions. Because the cards don't remember who got lucky, but the math is always keeping score. If you want to keep improving and keep leveling up your game, watch this next video. And as always, I'm your friend Vinton. GG.